Hi, I want to welcome you to today's presentation. I'm Dr. Michael Redmond. If you want to put questions in the chat, you're welcome to do so in the comments area. I may or may not see them because I have to look at two different screens, but I'll go back and forth. So today we're discussing building holistic resilience ecosystem. We're going to be talking about integrating ISO IEC 42001, which is dealing with artificial intelligence. And although most of you may be familiar with, or many of you may be familiar with ISO 2701, which is the standard for cybersecurity, 27002 helps you with procedures on how to implement it. So we're going to be using that for today's presentation. So we'll be combining the standards for enhanced security and continuity. A little bit about me. I have a PhD, a few MBAs, international business, marketing. My other MBAs are in risk management, information security. I have over 30 ISO certifications, as well as certified in MBCP, FBCI. I've taught for DRI, taught for BCI. So a lot of experience over the years. My books are being sold in 35 countries. As you can see, the titles that are there. I did 4 years on active duty with the military, 18 and a half National Guard and Reserves. I went to many, many different trainings in these areas, all dealing with emergency management, incident response, many classes in AI. And I also have my own international company. As a matter of fact, I was teaching an ISO certification course in Saudi Arabia 2 years ago. Absolutely loved my time there. Looking forward to coming back soon. So these are the 3 books I have out. They're available in 35 countries. You will, depending on your certifications, there's also audio trainings available on my site, which if you do the audio trainings, you do receive continuing education units through Disaster Recovery Institute. I know that ISC2 requires you to put in what you took, but in most cases, they've been giving the continuing education also. ISO does give continuing education credits for listening to the audio trainings. You can get that at redmondworldwide.org, REDMOND worldwide.org, and you can find them on there. So as far as international shipping costs and such, there's a phone number you call with a WhatsApp number, and they'll be glad to help you. So a little bit of the books is my last book was Evolving Roles of Chief Information Security Officers and Chief Risk Officers. The reason I'm bringing this book up, and this is the last I'll be talking about me, is there was a whole section on what do Chief Information Security Officers need to know in the next 5 years, 10 years. What do risk officers need to know? Information security, cybersecurity, and AI were listed among the top. And this has been out 2 years, and I already see it coming to formation. So it's a must. These are the audio trainings I told you about. The website is up there. If you're interested in them, you're welcome to do so. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Do connect with me after the presentation on LinkedIn. Just tell me that you attended the webinar, and I will definitely accept. And make sure you put in Michael C. Redmond when you put it in on LinkedIn. Thanks. Now let's get started. So we've talked about the foundations of ISO 42001, 2702. I gave you a 30-second summary. But we'll be discussing step-by-step integration for the 2 frameworks to a limit, because obviously how they work together, practical strategies, establishing frameworks, and real-world applications of success stories, and also non-success stories. I will give you some examples of what not to do, what has happened to companies that have been tremendously fined, what has happened to agencies that have been tremendously fined for not taking care of the risks that are associated with AI. AI is a great tool. I must be on AI so many times a day. It's amazing. I use it for so many different aspects of my business, so many aspects of working, training, studying. It is a great tool. It is also connected to the internet. It is also It has databases, everything that can be hacked, that can be attacked, that can be a cyber attack. And people forget. I have a number of people that say, well, it's AI. It's just out there. It's not out there. It's terrestrial. It's residing in a computer system on the ground. So no, it is, but it is still out on the internet. It is still available through access, through your portals, etc. So because of that, cybersecurity and information security are both critical. So and this is important to know. ISO, was just going to say ISO 2. I'm going to skip the IEC for now to say the numbers. 42001 offers a structured approach to enhance organizational resiliency for sustained success for AI. It is excellent. It gives you the details. I do like the AI. It's very small, but it is very, very, very powerful. I've been speaking quite a bit on AI at different conferences and specifically details of how to protect it. And it's amazing to me how many organizations are not seeing it's important and just saying, well, it's already protected. It's fine. It's out there. Well, that doesn't mean it's safe. So anticipate and prepare. What are your organization's anticipated risk? How do you prepare for disruptive events? We speak about that all the time, but how do you do that for AI? First, the area is to say, what areas can AI be affected in? And that's where the 4201 will help you with checklist, what areas you need to be looking at. Respond and recover. It helps you with responding for disruptions and recovering to a maximum operation and value. If there is a problem, the 4201 will help you with responding to and recovering from those operations from an AI point of view, from resiliency. You have to do a risk identification and assessment. You'll have to identify potential threats to the organization's resiliency. As far as AI, where is it? Is it residing on your premises? Are you using a third party? How are you investigating that third party? How are you auditing to make sure that they are safe, that they have done everything that they need to do? One way is to make sure that they're ISO 42001 certified as a product, as a corporation. So that's important. Now, I'm not telling you to get your company should become certified in ISO 4201. You do want to become compliant. But if you're a product, an AI product, if you will, then yes, I want to use one that's already been ISO 4201 certified. So you want to prioritize the risk assessment, different areas that it can affect, which can be not only your data, but what information are you giving AI in your organization? What does your policy say you're allowed to do? There was a CEO that was fired by the board of directors. He uploaded an old presentation, 4 years old, and he uploaded it to AI. And he said, this is a PowerPoint I have. I want you to convert this to a document for me. But in there, it had the company's financials. It had the name of the company. It had some confidential information that they did not want exposed. And he had just given this to an AI that was not their own. One that they were using was ChatGPT. And although nothing happened, it could have. So he was fired. So you want to use risk data to inform resilience planning and continuously update and assessments over your time. You also have to do business continuity planning for AI. So you have to develop plans, and you can use AI to help with this. Let's talk about that point of view. Many organizations are using AI to help with their planning. If you do that, please make sure it's a proprietary AI. If you're putting in department names, etc., if you're having it help with charts, having that security in place is critical. And also make sure you have security around it. Because if it's your own proprietary AI, then you are feeding information into it that you would not want exposed to the public or to other areas. So the policy has to be placed about that. You want to make sure your AI plans are regularly tested and updated, and you integrate continuity plans with overall strategy. AI can help you do all of this. There are AI enhanced different companies that are out there that have resiliency software that are AI enhanced. It's not just AI within it. They're using their original processes and then utilizing AI with it. Others are done by AI. So making sure that you know how it's being handled is critical. But there's nothing wrong with using it for planning. It's a great tool, and many organizations are. It's certainly helping to prepare every time a new product is bought, every time a new department comes in. The AI automatically says, you need a plan for this section. Now, we've been doing that manually. We've been using some softwares for that, but the AI is catching things that perhaps somebody who's working just an 8 or 9 or even a 10-hour day won't catch because they're not working 24 hours. Incident response management. AI has been used a lot for incident response management. There is quite a lot of information on it. Actually, there's a international conference taking place on utilizing AI for incident response among organizations, countries that are developing countries, specifically helping them out with that for their emergency management situations, when they have tsunamis, when they have sandstorms, different areas that might be going around the world. And they are using it for that. And it's helpful. But again, when you're giving it to a country that doesn't have a lot of technology and you're giving them a tool to access it, they have to make sure there's security in place, because the robust countries such as Europe, Saudi Arabia, the US, that are used to technology, are having problems. So you can imagine when you're giving it to someone that doesn't understand information security, the issues that can take place. But it is being used for that, and the conference is going on right now. Actually, I'll be speaking on a conference in Canada on using AI for planning for the environmental situations within countries and how they can be utilizing it as a tool. So it's a great, but the security is something that I've attended so many conferences, and people are forgetting to mention the security. It makes a big difference. You could buy a brand new house and it's beautiful, but if you don't lock the front door, if you don't lock your windows, you're not taking security in place. And then if something is damaged, something is taken, you can't say you did everything you can. Same thing when you're using AI. Are you doing everything? If there is a problem, if information gets out there, how are you going to handle it from an incident response point of view? You want to know your supply chain resiliency. It's also being used for this a lot around the world, especially for this. People are working for their resiliency when they're out of stock in a certain store. You'll see that they're putting codes in, and the AI will say, this store is coming out of this stock. It needs to be shipped. They're notifying the shipping area. The shipping area is notifying the production crew. We need more of this stock coming up. This is going to be coming. This is here. It's doing wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ways to help businesses thrive. But training and awareness programs are lacking. There are less training and awareness programs being done in organizations on resilience and risk management training reference AI than there should be. I also work as an auditor. I do ISO certification audits, and I've done audits in many, many different countries in different continents. And what I've seen across the globe is that this is an area that is lacking. And I appreciate that you're taking the time to be on this webinar. I don't want to spend too much time on these things. I want to get into the details. Now let's get into some of the details. You have ISO 27002. That defines the best practices for managing information security to safeguard critical organization assets effectively. Critical organization assets are anything that the organization deems important, including its people. That could be, making sure that they have succession planning in place, that they have that they are protecting people in certain areas. I've worked with in one country. I worked within. I can say the country because they brought me in to talk about it. It was in Nigeria. A lot of kidnappings going on, and we were using tools to make sure that we could have kidnapping plans in place, mitigating as much as we could for the top executives. AI wasn't in place yet, but AI is becoming very big now in Nigeria. So remember the not only are companies using it, governments using it, but your hackers are using it. And they have plenty of time to study. So it deals with confidentiality protection. It ensures that the sensitive information is accessible only to authorized individuals. Same with AI. Are you authorizing your AI to have this information? And organizations say, well, I'm using Copilot. It's out by Microsoft. It has to be safe. Copilot is using information for training. It doesn't realize what's confidential and what's not. It's taking that information and using it for training, which is how AI learns. Think of giving it to a child, saying, here's some information, and saying, but it's secure. How many children just tell something to their grandparents, or just to their mother, or just to their father? Well, that's secure. The same thing happens in organizations. The same thing happens in AI. It does not know who should have access to that information unless it's a proprietary AI. So you want to make sure you're looking at integrity insurance, maintaining accuracy and completeness of information. One of the things attackers are doing is they're attacking and only taking part of a database, pulling out some of the information. Same thing they've done all along. The integrity of the data is not there. The same thing is happening in AI. But what's happening now is the AI doesn't know that the integrity of their data is wrong. And they're continuing to work. There was an experiment done recently where they had robots, that actual physical robots that would be working in the test, doing different things in a factory. But they were utilizing AI. They had one group of the AI robots trained to do social engineering to convince the other robots to not do their jobs. They wanted to see if they could do that. By the end of the test, many of the robots had stopped working because the social engineering aspects from the other engineers seemed more logical of why they should not be working, why they should not be doing these things. So they stopped working. And it showed, the test was to show, and it was a very big experiment to show if AI could be trained to do social engineering through convincing someone not to do something. And it worked. So it only worked in AI against AI, but that does say something that it is progressing, because they weren't sure that AI could be used to do social engineering, to convince someone logically that something made no sense, when in fact, the AI who was convincing them knew that it made sense, and they were going against what they knew to what they had learned to say, let's see how we can manipulate this situation. They were taught how to manipulate. Amazing test. Fortunately, only a test, but nevertheless. So you want to make sure that your availability maintenance, that you have reliable access to information and resources when needed for authorized users. And this is from ISO 2702. It applies to AI 100%. There is nothing on here that does not apply to AI, not one thing. So there's complementary roles in organization resiliency. You have a holistic organization resiliency, 4201, promotes comprehensive resiliency across all organization functions for sustained operations. The 27002, oops, can't see it now. So 27002 provides detailed guidance in securing organization information and assets against threats. The standards create a robust ecosystem addressing both security and resilience needs. So let's talk about a step-by-step integration of the two frameworks. So you have identification overlaps between resilience objectives and security controls. You have synergy, supports comprehensive strategies to mitigate and manage risk security effectively. 2702 focuses on information security controls. 4201 emphasizes organizational resiliency. Both standards complement each other for holistic protection, mapping controls, ensuring integration, risk assessment. Just one moment, please. I'm seeing a message here. Hang on a second. Get with me. Just checking the message here. See if I can see if they want an answer. No, it's fine. Sorry, just checking. I have the chat on a separate line here, so it's a little bit trying to see both at the same time. It's a little confusing to see the chat. And the I just lost the chat. Well, we'll see if we can find that. So the information is we have ISO. So we help compliance, mapping each control against integrated risk assessments. And I don't know why I just lost the chat on the other phone. Let's see if I can pull it right back up. Hold on a second here. It's got to be our internet. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, I've got the chat back. Great, thanks. Just wanted to make sure I had that here because in case somebody does send me messages, I want to be able to see them here. Sorry about that. I'm seeing that there's a lot of chats in here, but unfortunately, they're not coming out in English also, so I can't see what they are. Oh, I see one. How can I translate the meeting to Arabic? I'm of no help for that. I apologize. Sorry. There are a lot of messages here on the chat. So if they're meant for me, and unfortunately they're not showing up in English, that's what I was trying to correct. I apologize. If I do get anything in English, that will be fine. So I apologize for that. As we talked about, technology issues happen. My phone is on one system, my computer is on another system. Bam, it went. So, but we're tracking all the time. So, both standards complement each other for holistic protection. Oh, great. So they're going to translate the questions for me later. So that's perfect. So otherwise we would have a very hard time with me trying to figure them out. It's interesting because the area that I lived in Brooklyn was 40% of people speaking Arabic because we had a large population from Egypt and a large population from Tunisia. So, but it didn't help me with the reading. So I apologize. And, friends of mine, my old neighborhood said, how can you not have picked it up all these years? I said, I'm not fluent in languages. I didn't pick it up because of conversation. I can pick up a word or two or three or four or some, but not many. They said, you've been in the community. We lived there for 15 years, and this is in Brooklyn, New York. But it was, especially they kept teasing me, saying, how do you not know this? And I'm sorry. But both standards complement each other for holistic protection. So it's very important. So having the areas. So ISO 27002 highlights access control policies. Who do you want to have access to the information? I mentioned the CEO and the problems we had with that they were not protected. That ISO 4201 integrates access control with resiliency. So this is saying, people say, well, why does 4201 have so much security? Why does it have so much resiliency needs? Why is that so important? And it's one of the reasons I absolutely really recommend this standard. If you can take a class in it, great. If not, at least get the problem with ISO is each person in the organization has to purchase their own copy. It is licensed. An organization can buy a organizational version, but it's limited to different numbers of people based on what they purchase. So it's still limited. So it's an expensive process to purchase, to implement, but it is necessary. Absolutely necessary, in my personal opinion. So in order to come up with an ISO, over 100, I think it's 154, could be more members now, have to agree on every word in that ISO standard. 154 countries. Yes, we think this is important. Yes, we think this is here. ISOs are updated every 5 years average based on the needs of the world. So as more problems become available, as more issues come available, they'll be integrating it and upgrading it sooner and faster. So you're controlling access. You're reducing risk of unauthorized incidents. Hold on. Yes, somebody said here that they absolutely want to do it so no one can get into their data easily. Absolutely true. It makes perfect sense. And that's a key area. Because your own personal data, when you're using information, are you careful? And people say, well, I tell the AI to forget it. Did it listen? Did it hear you? Are you sure it heard you? Again, going back to a child, have you ever told a 6-year-old, don't just forget this. It's not important that I'm going to be taking you out to the movies on Saturday. Just forget it. And those of you who've had children or ever been a child, if you've been told to forget something that you're looking forward to, you can't forget about thinking about it. You're thinking about it all the time. You're probably mentioning it to people. Don't tell anyone, but, I'm going to be going to the movie that I really want to see on Saturday, but don't tell anyone. That's a 6-year-old. That's AI. It is still at that stage. It tries to be good. It wants to be good. But sometimes it doesn't know it shouldn't say something. It's still in the learning stages, depending on the AIs you're using and how advanced they are. So by the way, when people are putting the chats in, I am seeing them in English a little bit. So that's coming up now. It works very well. So the controlling access reduces risk of unauthorized incidents. You have to support recovery by maintaining secure access controls. Who should have access? Now, there's 2 ways you can do this within an organization. You can say, well, there's more than 2, but 2 prominent. I can say, I'm going to give this person, and this person access. Or I can say, more than 2, I'm going to give this role access. So if so-and-so has that role and they leave the position, the new person in to take their job will automatically have access. I can also do it by organization. I can say everyone that is in procurement will have access to this information. Everyone that works in this department will have access to this other set of information. There's different ways of doing that. That has to be in your policy. And when you write your policy, according to ISO, it must be signed by a senior executive, senior person responsible for that. And they're signing off that, yes, they agree everything is correct. And in some organizations around the world, the board of trustees and the board of directors want to see it also and want to have approval authority for some of the policies, depending on the level. So 2702 defines incident response procedures. It tells you what they are. And 4201 expands it for resiliency and AI. So coordinated incident management ensures rapid recovery, documentations, lessons, cross departments collaboration enhances effectiveness. The 2702 is supporting availability and service continuity. How do we continue to help? How are we there? Where the 4201 is about how do we continue to keep this information? So how do we work with so that we can continue to provide continuity of the information that we provide? Their business of keeping it going. So integration ensures seamless operations during the crisis. Its joint governance frameworks enhance compliance. So you're harmonizing policies. You have to make sure your policies for AI and your policies for information security, your policies for cybersecurity, your policies for business continuity, for incident management, that there's synergy among those. And that is something as an auditor that I have found is missing in many, many, many organizations. I really like to come in. I love doing audits. I love doing consulting. I love doing training. But if I'm auditing, I like when I'm doing consultative auditing, where I'm coming in, where organizations will bring me in ahead of time and say, we're thinking of becoming ISO compliant. Go through every ISO certified. Go through everything we have as if it was an audit and let us know how we would do. Other times they say, we just want you to go through as if it was an actual certification audit, but we're only looking to be totally compliant. What do we need to have? What's missing? In a consultative audit, I'm allowed to tell them how to fix it. I'm allowed to give advice. When I am doing an ISO certification audit, I cannot tell them how to fix it. It's not allowed. I say it's wrong, but I can't give them the details. I am allowed to say it's wrong because you didn't comply with this standard. That's about as much as a hint as I can give, which is somewhat limiting. By the way, I'm not seeing the chats now in English. Somebody might have just written in English. So if you're sending a message in for me, I'm not seeing them yet, but we'll go to them later. So we will enhance, align, improve workflows, management of security and resiliency, ensuring robust organizational processes. Sounds like a lot of words. Pretty soon we're going to get into real stories about it, very soon. So now what we've talked about is you're identifying your risk integration. You've done it for AI, you've done it for business continuity, disaster recovery, cybersecurity. They're all integrated. They're working together on risk. What risk do we share? You're integrating treatment strategies. If AI does this, business continuity does that. Cybersecurity does this. Privacy does this. Everybody has a role in that incident response. It's not as if a department's having a problem. If AI has a problem and it has information of the entire organization, or it's controlling your robotics information, or it's controlling your production line, or it's controlling your security or access controls, and it has a problem that affects the entire organization. AI is holistic. So practical strategies. Finally, this is the part I like, but I find that I have to do the first part because some people don't have that background. It says, is this from a business administration or is it my personal job to do that? It is interesting. The responsibility for security is everybody's responsibility. So if you see something not working, it's your responsibility to report it. There should be a procedure in place to report it. But it is definitely going to be the whoever's responsible for your AI. It could be a maybe in some organizations might be a data scientist, and others is going to be an enterprise engineer. Obviously you'd be working with your data scientists and all while planning it and trying to put all of the security in place. And when it's being built within an organization, it's great. But sometimes you're using an off-the-shelf AI that you're using at third parties, and that becomes a little bit different. What standards are the main components of an AI policy? There are, well, definitely the 4201 is the main component. There are 3 other AIs that you can pull, 3 other ISOs that apply to it. I don't want to give you the numbers right now because I'll miss one digit, but I will go through that before we finish. Or if you, there are 4, you'll want to check them all. So all definitely 4201 is critical, absolutely critical. But there are 3 others you'll want to use about the technical aspects of it and such. But that's not in your overall AI policy. That's going to be your technology group's going to be using another one. So there's 3 others that the other groups will have to use also. But for right now, just concentrate on 4201. That is the primary. So the I'm trying to look at the information back and forth on the questions too. So we'll make sure we hit them all. I think it's important to answer questions as people have them. So you want to conduct risk assessments, identify the vulnerabilities, and prevent operational impact. And this should be done from a point of view of what could AI do. When I'm doing this, I like to bring in the data scientist if it's within the organization, with the data engineers, the enterprise engineers, the data analyst. If you have them on your team to help with the analysis of your own AI when it's being developed, they would certainly be there. But having them come in and look at them from what should be in our security policies to make sure anything you've already done perfectly, what if it doesn't work? What if there's a problem? I find I try to, especially if you bring them as consultants, I have them try to work on the policies before they leave that portion. But if you have an AI in place and you no longer have them on staff, or you didn't have them as staff in the first place, and you're working with AI internally, then the 4201 would be what you'd work with and be able to put that together. So it deals with preventive controls. These are the 3 different controls. Preventive controls are, and we used to be, we never used the term preventive, but AI uses the term preventive. We always say it's mitigative because the only way you can prevent something is by not doing it. And that's by ISO certification also. The only way to have an actual preventive is to not do something. But if we don't do it for a certain area, we're not going to let these groups of people work with AI because we're not sure if they understand the security. It's preventive because you've stopped that group from doing it altogether, and that's reducing the likelihood. So it's stopping something in order to be preventive. It's not mitigative. There's a difference. So incident response plans are: what if something goes wrong? How do we recover? What if what if our information is gone? What if they have had access to our databases? What if the AI has actually changed some of our information? What if the AI has been able to decipher how to appear as if they have access privileges, which we know that hackers do, and AI is doing it even faster. So ISO standards, you want to use it for both proactive and response measures. There's thorough improvements. Incident response analysis is important. Does it work? Testing it, doing actual test. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have your AI cause a problem. It doesn't mean that you have to shut down operations for a day. You can take small portions and do what's called a tabletop test. If this happened, what would we do? If this happens, how would we handle it? Is that written in our plans? If not, let's document that now. It's called a tabletop test. Whenever I do testing, I always recommend that organization do tabletop testing first. It saves a lot of money and a lot of time, because there you can find it's sort of like testing a recipe. Before you go out and buy a very expensive meat to cook and you want to use your grandmother's recipe, making sure that you can read her handwriting, making sure that there's something in there that you're not missing, making sure you have all those ingredients on hand while reading. It's tabletop testing. When we review a recipe, do I have this in place? Do I know how to cook this way? When it says this term, do I know what that means? So all of this there. Yes, it definitely goes into the life cycle of AI governance, 4201, all areas. Very good point. You want to establish governance and compliance frameworks. It is very important to have strong leadership. It's impossible to have strong leadership for AI if your leadership doesn't understand AI and the risk associated with it. So one of the things I normally do is recommend that a company or an organization, let's take organization. Until recently, I was the Chief Information Security Officer for Louisville, Kentucky. So we were an organization, definitely government. We had 43 government agencies underneath us. I was the Chief Information Security Officer while he was called on active duty for 14 months. Then I was the acting Chief Information Security Officer. But I was allowed to take a week off each month to do training and auditing, et cetera, during the day, because we were a 24-hour cyber operation. So I would work 8 hours doing that and then just continue in the evening. Even when I was working in Saudi Arabia teaching, because the time difference, when it was, we finished work at 3:30. I was back at my hotel by 4. I would have a half-hour break before I had to be on my first webinar with my staff in the U.S. So it was wonderful. And while the staff in the U.S. was taking lunch break, I was taking my dinner break downstairs, my full supper break downstairs by the pool. So it was a very nice way to do that, to be there. When I'm teaching, obviously I'm only going to be there for 2 weeks, so I'm not, or a week or 2 weeks, so I'm not getting an apartment. I'll stay in a hotel wherever I teach. But it is by doing that, I've been able to go around the world and see how different continents are doing AI, how different continents are handling security. That's the reason that the city allowed me to teach and such during this time as an independent, not through the city for sure. That would have been a conflict of interest. And whenever I would teach and such for a company, I always asked them to have a non-disclosure agreement. And they said, we don't do that. I said, you need to have me sign a non-disclosure agreement that anything that's discussed in class that somebody slips out that's confidential. Oh, our people would never do that. They do. I've had students in my class say, well, this is a problem we're having, not realizing that with my knowledge, I could take that and have information that maybe somebody else wouldn't understand. So I always insist they have me sign a non-disclosure. I even bring my own if they don't have one. And I've had companies and organizations and governments even, usually government's pretty sharp on it, but I've had some organizations say, well, we trust you. I said, don't trust anyone when it comes to information security, unless you have something signed, something valid, something that you have, that all right, this is an added value of protection. Yes, trust me. I never even lied to my parents. As a person, sure, you can trust me. But when it comes to AI, when it comes to cyber, signing a non-disclosure for any consultant you have in, absolutely a must. I will not work with anyone that will not let me sign a non-disclosure. I'll bring my own and I'll sign it and I'll give it to them. I say, give this to your legal. Just hold on to it. It makes me feel that I know that I'm following what they should be doing. I said, I may come back and audit you someday. I would have to fail you for not having, protections in place. So I'm seeing it here. Yes, ISO 4201 doesn't stop at incident management. It builds bridges and resiliency uh, by embedding into the life cycle of AI governments. It works together for the whole AI governance. So that's why you have cross-functional collaboration. By the way, when I'm telling you stories about me and what I've done, it's so that it's a learning point. When I teach, I find that stories are what people learn from. I've had people sit for their 3-hour ISO certification exams and come back and say, I couldn't remember what I studied, but I remembered the story. Okay, I made sure they had an NDA in place. That was one of the questions on the test. I made sure they had that. I remembered the story. So if I tell you something, it is the purpose for teaching. I started teaching. I knew I wanted to teach adults. So I got my certification as a high school teacher even though I wasn't teaching high school. I was doing double major in international business, undergrad and marketing, etc. So I knew I wasn't going to teach it, but I wanted to make sure I had that. From there, I started teaching for colleges when I was 24. I've taught for many universities. And then I love teaching the ISO certification classes probably the most, because I'm actually teaching people that are doing it, that are seeing what's going on and seeing the places. So Ramus, did I miss a lot of information? The first half, but the standard is very important. Yes, let me put that. The one that deals with II risk management, as I said, there's 4 ISOs you want to deal with, is the ISO 23894. And you'll see that after the colon where it says 2023, it's the last year it was updated. So there's 4 that I use, but for purposes of policy, 4201 is the main one you want to stick with. And that's why we're keeping this. We can't cover everything in one. We can certainly do another webinar for you if you like on the 4 different AIs policies, 4 different AI ISOs. That's certainly something, if you're interested, just let them know. Be glad to come back. And that is a session by itself, how they intertwine and how to work them together. So with auditing practices, you want to have internal audits. The problem with internal audits when it comes to AI is you want to have an internal auditor that's ISO 42001 certified, or at least compliant, that understands its compliance. An individual can't be compliant, but has taken maybe a class in it at least that knows. I prefer would have one that's certified because it is easy to miss with when you, especially internal audit has to have the same background and I've done lots of internal audits. In my personal opinion, internal audit has to be as well trained as the external auditors, as the person doing certification office when it comes to AI. And it's very difficult because an internal auditor has to audit everything. They can't possibly be certified in all the different certifications. They can't. They have to be knowledgeable of them. So but I always prefer, if possible, send your internal auditor for the 42001 certification, if possible. If not, at least make sure that they have truly studied it and have a good understanding of it and understand the interrelationships along with the others. And then it works fine too. And external audits are for independent validation and financial accuracy. Now, when you're doing an external audit, the difference is internal audits making sure, does it work? Are you ensuring compliance and operation? Does it work within our organization? Does it fit? And an external audit is itself, when you're having somebody come in and do a financial audit, et cetera, checking your programs, they are looking for, are you compliant? Are you hitting the check marks? And are you meeting the financial accuracy? Where the internal audit wants to know, is this the most efficient way we can do this? Is there a better way of doing it? Because internal audit can give you advice. There's your difference. An external auditor can't. Now, I've come into organizations as an internal auditor, even though I'm not full-time. I'll be there just for whatever period of time it is as the internal auditor, because they want advice too. So it allows me to do auditing consulting simultaneously. It's very, very smart of an organization to do that. I advise you, when you're bringing somebody in, to bring them in as a consultative audit first before you ever have an external audit. But you want them to be both an implementer and certified in audit for that particular, whatever it is you're looking at. So you want them to be an ISO 4201 implementer certified and ISO 4201 certified auditor if you're bringing them in for consultative audit. They're only going to be there for a short time. You're not hiring them. Make sure you're bringing in the best. Performance monitoring. This helps improve areas and track improvement over time. I was using Copilot yesterday, and a pop-up came up and it said, what do you think of Copilot? Anything you want to report? I've already put in 3 reports because I'm only using one part. This is my personal one. I'm just using it for, I track my nutrition every day. What foods have I eaten? How much potassium is in it? How much sodium is in it? Just for health program. And we've been working on it for weeks, and I had it all set up with the way I wanted my charts. I had it fed with all the information it needed to learn, all the products, all of everything. And it lost it and said, I don't know how to recreate everything. I said, I have backups of everything I've told you. I will give it to you again. And it lost it about a week later again. Now, I'm only using it for something serious. When I'm using AI itself for business, that's not my tool, because I can't take a chance of it. And I'm not going to be using any confidential information. I don't care if I haven't had enough potassium, or if I went 10 calories over on my calories today. That's okay. If somebody knows that, that's all right. But I make sure that it doesn't know specifically details about me. Even then, I never put my age, never put exactly where I'm at, never put my details. And I'm just using it for that. I use other AIs for other purposes, but very careful. But I have put in reports saying it's lost memory. And there've been other issues that have been coming up from Copilot, especially in June, that were reported saying that it had lost data and such. But remember, it's using there's 5 different AIs. You have Microsoft AI, you have Google you have AIs, 5 different Copilots. You have Microsoft Copilot, you have Google Copilot, then there's others. Just because it says Copilot doesn't mean that they're all the same. They're all very, very, very different, with different amounts of resiliency associated with them. So performance monitoring, it says here that we have the comment there. Just want to make sure. So it helps improve areas to track over time. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, because I am reading each one that comes through. If I can see it, if it's in English, so I'm reading it. People have been helping and giving information too. So the chat's working very effectively. So their examples underscore the importance of integrating robust. By the way, I will go back through all the slides. I always do that very quickly, just so you can have a quick review. We should have time to do so. These examples underscore the importance. Well, maybe I won't. I have to see the time probably we have. I'll go back through some of them if we need to. So if someone has questions on a slide, you can ask me. I can go back to that slide. So the examples underscore the importance of integrating robust information security with AI systems to prevent data breaches and avoid hefty fines. Data breaches is only one of the concerns we have, only one. It could also be, these are just the examples I gave you here, but these are just the examples I chose because I'm giving you a few of them. But remember, it could be accessing data that it shouldn't be. There's a data breach, but it could also be AI can also be used in denial of service attacks. AI can also be used in gaining access with overriding access controls. AI can also be very good on social engineering. Any type of cyber event you can have, AI can do it also, including it can affect so that you're looking at your data and you're missing certain pieces that you think are important, but they're missing. And so when you're giving out, you may be missing, or one additional thing, maybe somebody's changed in a banking account number. They've changed a few numbers, but it goes to their bank account. So you're depositing money, but it's going into their bank account, but you don't realize it because the bank sees the bank account. But behind the scenes and the interactions is being transferred over. Man-in-the-middle attacks are being done all the time in cyber. You're ordering something online, somebody gets that information, they take 2 cents off it, they continue with the order. Your order arrives. You don't realize you paid an extra 2 cents on your credit card. People aren't looking for 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents. But when they're doing that with every single order, a man-in-the-middle attack can become very, very, very lucrative. Right, absolutely. Somebody said here, listing the age, the name. Yes, I don't list any of that. So the AI thinks I'm 21. I'm not. But when they said, how old are you? I said, 21. It doesn't matter. It's an information that I would never give my own correct information for a public AI. When I'm not dealing with my own, that's not secured and internal. Some examples of what not to do. Let's start with that. So Facebook, I'm going back to some old ones in 2018, 2019. Facebook, to show you how far back we've had lessons to learn from. The first one was in 2018, not the first, but the first example I'm giving you. And here it is 7 years later, and people are still making the same mistakes. So Facebook in 2019 faced $5 billion fine for privacy violations. They failed to protect user data adequately, and it was exacerbated by its AI algorithms that collected and processed vast amounts of personal information without proper security measures around the AI. 5 million. British Airways, they were fined 183 million pounds for a data breach that comprised the personal and financial data of 500,000 customers. The breach was partially due to inadequate security measures in their AI system that handled customer data. Notice a trend. 2018, Uber, they agreed to a $1.4 million settlement with 50 states and Washington, D.C. over a data breach that exposed personal information of 57 million users and drivers. The breach occurred because of poor security practices in their AI-driven system, which failed to protect sensitive data. Are you seeing a pattern here? Big data, absolutely. Big data is the first thing they want to attack. One attacks, more information. Now we're getting a little more current. This is 7 years later, and we're still seeing incidents. Unisys Corporation was fined $4 million for making materially misleading disclosures about their cybersecurity risk. The company downplayed the impact of the SolarWinds breach, which compromised their AI-driven systems. So not only did they have a problem, but they materially mislead, which says that they did not state the truth. How do you like that from a legal term? Materially misleading. That means they lied. They lied about their cybersecurity risk. They said, oh, it wasn't that important. It wasn't the AI system. That wasn't it. No. Don't look there. Look over here instead. Well, that didn't work. AI Holdings Corporation was fined $1 million for similar reasons. The company significantly understated the extent to which its information had been compromised. They lied. understated is a legal term for lied, during SolarWinds breach affecting their AI system. Now they said, well, we're not SolarWinds. SolarWinds was a third party. You are responsible for any third party you allow to have access to your data. That's all over the world. I know these are more US examples, but these are the ones I had most readily available. I did try to find some from different countries, but they were all in the local languages that I was finding for some of them. That I was finding for some of the events, if they were actually out there. And I could have gone through and used I have translator. I could have just switched it over, but I decided I'll just take what I had. But it was interesting because one thing I read was some countries I was looking up, it said that their governments are very careful and that they have not developed AI as much. Others have said that certain, I was looking all over Asia, everywhere, certain countries don't allow the disclosure to be any of their internal cases are not allowed to be disclosed on the internet for public awareness. And that's, I certainly understand that. So these were information available. So Check Software Technologies. The checkpoint was fined $995 by the SEC for failing to disclose the full impact. They lied. You notice a trend. Mimecast was fined $990 by SEC for minimizing the attack's impact on their AI system, their own AI system, failing to disclose the type of code and number of login credentials that the hacker obtained. They lied. So not only is the AI having problems, but the people who are responsible for it are lying. It could be senior management was telling the truth. It could be the people responsible for the AI were the ones that did not disclose the information to senior management. It could be that someone had never even followed up to see the type of code they had or the number of login credentials and that number of things. They didn't have an instant response to say the number of login credentials were checked. Maybe they never even knew and knew how to monitor that. That would be different. That would be a failure to implement properly. But if they say that they minimized, it comes back on senior leadership. And unfortunately, in some of these cases, senior leadership may have been telling the truth, but the information below them was wrong. They're still responsible. They signed off on the policy that said, this is what we must have. They should also have had a policy as part of their incident response. In time of incident response, the following things will be checked. This should be done. It should be audited by their internal auditor. And it should have had a incident response test. The incident response test results and the results of the internal auditor under ISO should be reviewed by senior management. So they know what's going on. So it's very hard to have anything there. So it says here, artificial intelligence is important, but should not be relied upon permanently. Yes. Artificial intelligence, unfortunately, is going to be taking more and more of a lead, I think, as the world goes on. I think it's going to be very important. I think it's going to be, whether we like it or not, I think it's going to be, there will be layoffs. There have already been layoffs in different parts of the world. Excuse me. I have my Diet Coke on the side just because my throat. I probably could have put water in there, but I like Diet Coke. So the one of the things that's important is that senior leadership has to be trained. I've come into many organizations and trained board of directors and board of trustees on AI and its risk. Many organizations I've heard people, laying people off. They're firing people because they don't need as many people because AI is taking over. In some roles, but remember, 10 years ago, we did not have enterprise engineers. Enterprise engineers have got to know, they have to be certified, they have to be well advanced. And usually they were a data scientist, usually a data analyst. They had started out first. And then data analysts can take data scientist roads, or they can take data engineer roads. They usually go one way or the other. They can do both, but it's hard to know both. So the data engineer has to know not only where the data is, but all the all the applications you're using, all the technology you're using, everything that's in place, and be able to use it from an AI point of view. That is the what's called an enterprise engineer. So it's AI predominantly, and they are looking at with all of the technology, all the applications, all the interfacing. The data scientist is coming in and helping to design it best. How do we get the data? How do we make sure this is accessible? How do we work with this? We did not have these positions in these titles as much 10 years, 10, 15 years ago, and definitely not 15 years ago. Data analyst had different titles even then. These are new jobs that are coming up. There are so many jobs in AI. We did not have an AI governance officer coming in before. We did not have AI ISOs in place. So it is growing, growing, growing. It's similar to when my mother was going to high school, she had a computer. I mean, she had a typewriter. That's what she learned to work on, was a typewriter, old-fashioned typewriter, manual. Not her. Her grandparents had typewriters. My mother had a electric typewriter. Then the next generation, we had PCs. So after that, they had terminals in some of the schools. After that, they had actually laptops and PCs you could take with you. Now we have everything on our phones. Technology is here to stay. It is not going away. And with each of those, it has developed new skill sets, new jobs. So it is a world of continuous learning, continuous growth, continuously nonstop schooling. It just does not stop at all. So the whole world learned from these examples that I just showed you. Cybersecurity regulations and enforcement are becoming increasingly stringent worldwide, including in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, SAMA, and the National Cybersecurity Authority have been actively working to enhance cybersecurity measures and compliance within the country. And I'm looking forward for them to finish some of their documentation. I did look at the documentation from Canada. It is more of, it's basically, I didn't see anything different that I would find in the ISO 4201. So I'm really looking forward to this. I try to read every documentation that comes out when it first comes out. So again, years ago, I would have had to bring it to a translator. Now doesn't matter. I have friends from all over the world that just write to me in their native languages. It's easier for them than speaking in English, and it just translates when I get it, and vice versa. So we can have conversations in person. We have to speak English because I'm the limiting factor. But when they're writing to me, they can do it in any language. It works phenomenally. So this is important, and do keep track of this when this comes out. In the U.S., they came out with NIST, N-I-S-T. It's the National Institute for Standards Technology. It is available. You can get it. They have AI also. It is NIST.gov. The information can be accessed from anywhere. You can download it for free. In fact, it's an agency that puts together free information. That's all they do. They research, they put together free information, and it's being used around the world. As a matter of fact, when I took my AI classes, they actually included excerpts from NIST, even though it was international ISO classes. They'll do the inserts from there. So do use it as a tool also. It has some more technical information on how you might want to be utilizing it. Not so much the governance risk and compliance, but more of the technical aspects that you may want to look at. So I do recommend taking a look at it. It's free. The Canadian one, I always check everybody's as much as I can. I did not find anything coming out from Asia that was new. Africa is getting very, very, very involved. They just had an AI. They're doing AI for emerging countries, and so they're coming out with new. I haven't seen new documentation from them yet, but they are doing a lot of conferences, webinars, a lot of training. When I've gone to international conferences, I went to a conference last year for training on a senior threat hunter, and friends and I get together once a year in different countries and take classes together in English. I'm a limiting factor. I do know some French. I do know some um, Spanish, but I'm German. I lived in Germany for a number of years, but not it's just not my forte. I'm not fluent enough to be able to take classes in them. I did take a class in German years ago. I picked up a lot, but it wasn't a technical class, so it was easier. But technology, it's harder for me. But we took classes in Paris. We're going to be taking I'm taking a class on AI risk management in Barcelona in October. And I find that many of the students that come, are from Africa. Many are flying in from Africa for these classes. I did find a number coming in from, some coming in from Dubai, some coming in from Morocco. There were some people from Saudi Arabia, but it's interesting how the African organizations are coming up with budgets to send their people to the trainings more, because they it just happens to be culturally they're putting more. So I'm looking to see some standards coming out from Africa soon. Right now they're using others, but I'm looking to see what they're going to be coming out with, because it is actively involved. These are examples of what not to do. I gave you some of these already. We talked about these, some of the what not to do. So I just want to recoup that. Just take the moment. Notice that the key here was that even if your AI plan doesn't work, even if your infinite does plan, do not lie. Obviously, we all know that. That's ethical. We know that right away. And they don't realize they're lying. They say, well, we're just not going to share this information. We're not going to say we don't have it. We're not going to say we didn't do it. We're just not going to share it. Well, for legal point of views, and when it's reported, if you didn't share it and they asked you they shouldn't have to say, did you share all your information of why the attack occurred? So many countries now are coming up with, if you have a problem, and this is, again, Saudi Arabia is coming up with that. If you have a problem, this is what must be disclosed. And so that's becoming regulatory. And I wish that it was more international, because many, and I do say that I don't use the word many very easily. If I say many, that means it's definitely over 50, 60%. If I say most, it's over 80%. So I'm very careful with my terminology. So real world applications and success stories. Let's talk about some of these. This is what worked. Now we've come to some of what didn't work. Let's find out what does. Case studies of successful information. They face challenges. Every organization right now is susceptible to threats, to attacks. Organizations often encounter complexity and resource limitations when integrating resiliency and security frameworks. Things that the resources, they think they're bringing the right people in, but they may not be. They may not be. Again, that's why certifications are so important. It helps. A certification doesn't mean you're going to be a good implementer necessarily, but you know what to implement. Remember, to be a good implementer, personality makes a difference. Being able to get along with people helps. Being able to ask the right questions, being able to work with people. We've all interviewed people. We've all worked. We all know that those things are important. But at least it shows the knowledge they have. And also, in order to become ISO certified as a lead implementer, they must have 5 years experience. In order to become implemented as a senior lead or senior auditor, they must have 10 years experience. For foundation, if you want to get certified in ISO certification class in foundation level, you don't have to have any experience. Just pass the exam. And then when you have 2 years of experience in the field, you can apply and say, I've had the 2 years experience. You do not have to retake the exam. You have to pay a processing fee and submit your resumes and submit references, etc., for those 2 years. And then that's what the processing fee covers. They have to contact those references and such to make sure. And then they will be upgraded to a implementer or to an auditor. And then the same process when you have the 5 years, you can pay a processing fee and say, but you don't have to retake the exam. Once you take the first exam, you don't have to retake it. Although there are tweaks, that you may want to, ISO 2701 added in a lot of things this year, so tweaks. The new version is updated, but if you had the old version, there were certain classes and such on how to bridge the gaps. So you want to make, but they also implemented coordinated strategies. Notice this. They had coordinated strategies throughout the entire organization. They leveraged technology. They enabled effective, integrated, and risk management. So they were looking at it from a holistic point of view. Where does AI touch? Who touches AI? What of our systems touch AI? Who has access to it? And legal was involved in the process. Are we meeting all the requirements we have to meet for our country? Are we meeting all the requirements we have to have for AI for the countries we may do business in if we export? If we have other clients, if we have clients' information or customers' information from other countries, are we meeting their requirements? Legal is important. Compliance is important. Outcomes achieved, successful integration, improved organizational resiliency, security, posture, operational continuity, the ability to continue to work, and hopefully, even with my own personal, just my charts for my the food I fed, for my normal products that I normally eat, all of the supplements associated with it, all of the way I like my charts, I had all that backed up. So when AI said I can't find this information, I said just a second. It took me 5 minutes to have it fully operational again in AI. For me to send it in, it took them a little bit longer. It took the Copilot a little bit longer. But here's my, this is the foods, these are the nutrients, these are the brand names, these are the calories, this is the potassium, this is the sodium, et cetera, et cetera. Here we go. This is the format, the way I like it. This is the information I want you to track. This is how we do it. By the end of the day, we finish. Every Thursday, I want a summary report. I'm in a nutritional group on Fridays. We meet and there's a nutritionist that runs it, and we join, and she runs it, and we kind of track keep everybody healthy. It's kind of like belonging to a gym, but it's as opposed to just, I have a gym membership too, but this is my healthy side of my gym, if you will. So health is important to me. So leadership commitment. In order for leadership to show commitment, they have to do one of three things according to ISO. They have to provide the proper resources. That means not just taking somebody who has absolutely no training and say, oh, well, you can use them in AI. No, it's taking somebody who is qualified, either through experience, through certifications, or through a combination of both. That's the first thing. That's the resources. But part of the other resources are also providing the funding you need to have to do the projects. The place to work, those are the areas of resources it must provide. The proper people, a place to work, and the proper funding, proper location. So those are the three things that an auditor will look at to see if there's strong leadership commitment. They also want to make sure that leadership understands what they are looking at. So if you can show that your leadership has had training on AI and the risk associated with it and how they should manage it and what the tests are and what the processes should be, and maybe a 1 to 2 hour meeting for your senior executives, and then in some organizations, board of directors, board of trustees, so that they will help them in making decisions. Your organization may not want it, but I highly suggest you suggest it. Clear communication, making sure that everyone understands goals, roles, and expectations. Who does what, when do they do it, and what level should they be performing at? So ongoing training is absolutely important. Things are changing all the time in AI. ISO had one AI before. Now there's 4, and there's going to be more. NIST had none, and now NIST has a few. Everyone is constantly going to be learning when it comes to AI. As it learns, we're going to be learning. New regulations, new standards, new requirements, new things we never thought about, new things we have to work on, new security risks we never even thought about. Remember, the human mind can only think about so much. The what ifs become difficult if it's something we never fathomed. So flexible processes, making sure the processes are adaptable to evolving risk and changing environments. As the world changes, you change. Actionable takeaways. You want to conduct gap analysis, identify gaps in current processes to prioritize information effectively. If you have any questions, if you can put them in the chat. My intention was to go through the chat at the end. I didn't realize I wasn't going to be able to. Maybe I could do an. I don't want to. No, it's already on a thing. I don't want to lose my phone. I was going to just run it through a translator, but I'll lose the access if I do that because I have a security set up on my phone. So if I do that, I'll lose. I can't do both at the same time. So I'm very security conscious. So you want to conduct the gap analysis. This is what ISO 4201 says you should have. This is what ISO 27002 best practices say you should have. Are we implementing it the way the best practices suggest? Are we doing are we implementing ISO 4201 the way it is required? That's a standard. 27001 is a standard that is required if you choose to follow it. But and some countries have to be certified in ISO 2701 for the I know that in one part of Canada, Edmonton, Canada, every government agency has to have a compliance audit and show they're compliant. So to that. So every country is different. So you want to conduct gap analysis, and that is a formal process. A gap analysis is different than an audit, but you're definitely doing it against the standard. And you want to do a gap for every single area that has it. So if this responsibility in the 4201 says this is where it should be, maybe I need to go to my data analysts, my data engineers, my data scientists, have them work with that portion who I should be interviewing. Or this section here, that sounds like something that I may have to go to the IT departments for to get my network, especially how is network knowing if it's something's coming in, or I have to go to security here. How do they know if the access controls are still working? How do they know if something's being manipulated by AI, or working with the integrity? So I'll have different HR should be involved as part of the process. So all of the different areas I interview them as part of a gap analysis. I find this way I'm getting holistic. I put together, as part of my gap analysis, I treat it as if it was an audit. If something is being done, thank you for telling me, show me. Just like an auditor. And I will take a screenshot of the evidence and put it in. Sometimes I'll put it in Excel spreadsheets and I just insert the screenshots. It's cumbersome for a large organization. I have set up, many organizations have either SharePoint or something similar that is secured. I'll use that where I'll put all of the ISO 4201 and ISO 2701 standards, the controls, into a separate line. And then I include the departments that should be I tell the departments, you're going to be doing this area, that's this control, that control. They can look it up by control number and insert their own screenshots and such, so that I can come back and monitor it. If I'm doing it as part of an employee, that's what I did with the city. I did it for the whole city. And I was able to do it in addition to my job. It took months. Had I been doing it full time, it would have been much less time. But they were all working full time. So I had to make sure that I limited my time with them. I wanted to make sure that my gap analysis was not impeding upon them working and causing problems for them. So one of the things I did was I allowed them to upload it and then send me an email when they upload it, and I would review it. It worked very, very effectively. And then we had documentation. So if we did decide to have an audit, which I did, I asked to have a external Well, an internal audit of somebody who was certified in ISO, this was 2701 audit, come in from outside to audit my work as part of internal audit to make sure that I had done my gap assessment and had not missed anything. Why? Did I think I had? No. I'm a senior lead implementer, a senior lead auditor also. I did not think I had missed anything. But that doesn't mean I was right. I wanted to double check that I had everything done effectively because there's no room for mistakes in cybersecurity, no room for mistakes in AI, no room for mistakes in information security. It's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of, did I do it right? Let me know. Check. Who else can check my work? Checks and balances. So maybe when you were a child and you did your homework, maybe your parents checked your homework for you at the end of the night to make sure you didn't have any errors, to help you if you did, or maybe they didn't. But the point is, if parents did, that's why they're doing it, to make sure that they can help you, guide you, and improve your processes going forward. Not to say you made a mistake, but to say, this is something you may have overlooked. How about this? So far, and when I do a gap analysis, that's how I do it. No one's made a mistake. It's just something they've overlooked. So you want to foster team collaboration and prioritize risk assessments. So we've talked about, we're on time. We've talked about integration of standards. We've talked about combining ISO 42001, 27002, a comprehensive framework for security and resiliency, and then enhanced. I've been answering most of the questions as they've been coming through. So I think we may not have a lot of questions at the end because I've been seeing them as they come through. The integrated approach strengthens an organization's ability to sustain operations during disruptions. Holistic security supports readiness to face evolving information security threats effectively. If you want to take a screenshot of this, I recommend it because this is what you're going to be saying to senior management. We want to have training, so we have integration of standards, enhanced organizational resiliency, and preparation for emergency challenges. By combining this, we'll be able to help with integration of standing. The enhanced organizational resiliency will help strengthen our organization. This is going to be your executive summary when you are speaking to your executives to have them realize why it is so important. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, I'm okay with that. I'll give you a second to do so. So I am open for questions. I know we have 3 minutes left. So if you want to put your questions in the chat, I will answer them. Thank you for giving me the time. There is my LinkedIn profile. Please connect with me. Let me know that you attended today and I'll automatically accept. I accept from anybody that's ever attended any of my webinars. I do post a lot on LinkedIn, a lot of information. I post a lot of articles. Teaching is it's a must for me. Even when I'm working with my employees, I teach constantly. If I find something new, I'm constantly sending it out to senior management. I believe that knowledge is power. And I believe that with that power, we can all make the world a better place. And we owe it to each other to continue to share information. So if there's any more questions we have 2 minutes left for questions. Because I'm seeing some things. Great. Thank you. I hope you found this extremely helpful. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn through Messenger. I will answer them. Maybe not right away, but I promise you within a few days, I will answer your questions. I always do. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I do hope that we'll meet someday. I would love to meet you all in person. And if you ever come to the States, you have my information on LinkedIn. Let me know you're coming to the States. And I don't say that easily, by the way, because I've had people take me up on my offer. I'm very serious. I believe we're just one big world and we all should know each other. So thank you very, very much for today. And I consider it an honor to have been invited. And I want to thank everyone that attended today. And I appreciate your time very, very much. Thank you.